It is the morning of January 1st, 2026, New Year's Day. While the rest of the world is waking up to a fresh calendar, recovering from celebrations and making resolutions, there is a silence deep in the Ozark National Forest that feels unnatural. We are at the Arbaugh Trailhead, Johnson County, Arkansas. It is a rugged, lonely place, a gateway to the wilderness where the cell service dies and the terrain turns unforgiving. There should be nothing here but frost on the ground and the sound of the wind cutting through the limestone bluffs. But there is something else. A vehicle, a white 2012 Mini Cooper. It sits abandoned. To a casual observer, it looks like a hiker's car, maybe someone who decided to ring in the new year on the peaks. But look closer. There is a glitch in the picture, a fracture in the logic of a normal day out. The license plates are gone, both the front and the back, removed. This isn't just a car left behind. This is a car that has been stripped of its identity. Inside the vehicle, the air is cold. The engine block is frozen solid. It has been sitting here for days, maybe longer, hidden in plain sight, while a family 500 miles away is praying for a phone call that never comes. Because this car belongs to Nicholas Collins, 22 years old. He is supposed to be in Garwin, Iowa. He is supposed to be safe at home. But Nicholas Collins is not in the car. He is not at the trailhead. He has walked into the trees. And he has left behind a trail of clues that don't make sense. A note that says everything and nothing. A phone that went silent the moment he turned the key. And a journey that crosses state lines, driven by a secret purpose that no one, not his parents, not the police, saw coming. What drives a young man to drive 500 miles into a wilderness he doesn't know, just to disappear? Did he walk into these woods to find something? Or did he come here to lose himself forever? Welcome to the Ozarks. And this is the anatomy of a silence. To understand why a white Mini Cooper ends up stripped of its plates in the mountains of Arkansas, we have to rewind the clock. We have to go back 18 days. It is December 19th, 2025. We are in Garwin, Iowa, a small, tight-knit agricultural community, the kind of place where winter settles in, hard and fast, and where everyone knows everyone's business. Nicholas Collins is 22. In the eyes of the world, he is just starting his life. He is a graduate of the local schools. He has roots here. There is no criminal record, no history of running away, no public signs of a man on the edge of a cliff. But on this Friday, something shifts. Nicholas prepares to leave his residence. He doesn't pack for a long vacation. He doesn't tell his friends he is leaving. He leaves a single piece of paper, a note. It contains 5 haunting words: going away for a while. Analyze that phrase. Going away for a while. It is a masterpiece of ambiguity. To a hopeful parent, it sounds like a break, a mental health day, a spontaneous road trip to clear his head, maybe a drive to nearby Gladbrook, just 10 miles away. But to a forensic psychologist, it reads differently. It lacks a return date. It lacks a destination. And then comes the second action, the one that turns this from a road trip into a crisis. He turns off his phone. He doesn't just silence it, he kills the connection. In 2025, our phones are our digital heartbeats. We use them for GPS, for music, for emergency calls. To power down a phone before a road trip is not an accident. It is a decision. It is what investigators call digital severance. He is cutting the cord. He is making himself invisible. Nicholas gets into his white Mini Cooper. He starts the engine, and he drives away from Garwin. The timeline begins to fracture right here. Days pass. December 20th, silence. December 22nd, the snow falls in Iowa, no word. December 25th, Christmas Day. This is the breaking point. Christmas is the one day you call home. Even if you are angry, even if you are sad, you send a text, you make a call. But the Collins family phone stays dark. The while in going away for a while has stretched too long. The Tama County Sheriff's Office is notified. They start the standard procedure. They check local hospitals. They check the roads to Gladbrook. They ping the phone, but the phone is a ghost. It hasn't shaken hands with a cell tower in a week. They are looking for a needle in a haystack. But they are looking in the wrong haystack. Because Nicholas Collins isn't in Iowa anymore, while his family waits by the window in Garwin. A machine hundreds of miles to the south has just woken up. A camera on a highway in southern Missouri captures a blur of white metal. It reads the plate. It processes the data. And suddenly, the map explodes wide open. He isn't taking a break. He is running. The digital breadcrumb in Missouri points south, like a compass needle swinging toward a magnetic pole. It points to the Ozarks. If you have never been to the Ozark National Forest, you cannot understand the density of it. It is not like the open cornfields of Iowa. It is a labyrinth. It is endless ridges of hardwood, limestone bluffs that drop hundreds of feet without warning, and hollows so deep the sun barely touches the bottom in winter. It is beautiful, and it is a perfect place to hide. It is 8:41 a.m., January 1st, 2026. A call comes into the Johnson County Sheriff's Office. A vehicle has been spotted. It is sitting at the Arbaugh Trailhead. This isn't a main tourist hub, it's remote. It's a gravel scar on the side of a mountain used by serious backpackers and hunters. The deputies arrive. The air is biting cold. They see the white Mini Cooper. And immediately, the glitch we talked about becomes the only thing that matters. The license plates are gone. Stand there with the deputy for a moment. Look at that empty bumper. If Nicholas Collins was just a hiker, if he had just driven down here to clear his head, to walk the trails and see the view, why take the plates? A lost hiker wants to be found. A lost hiker wants their car identified so rangers know they are missing. Removing the plates is a countermeasure. It is a calculated act of erasure. It buys time. It forces a deputy to get out of their cruiser, walk up to the windshield, and read the VIN number through the glass. The deputies run the VIN. It matches. This is the car. Nicholas Collins has been found, or at least his shell has. But the car is locked. It is empty. And the silence surrounding it is deafening. There are no footprints in the immediate mud, likely washed away by winter weather or frozen over. The trailhead leads into the wilderness, into the dark. The car is not a sign of life. It is a tombstone marking the start of a journey that Nicholas never intended to return from. The environment here isn't just scenery. It is a predator, and Nicholas has walked right into its mouth. The mobilization is massive. This is no longer a welfare check. This is a full-scale search and rescue operation. The jurisdictions blur. The car is in Johnson County, but the trail heads north into Newton County. Sheriff Glenn Wheeler of Newton County and the team from Johnson County don't care about borders. They care about the clock. It has been 13 days since Nicholas left home, but only hours since the car was found. The hope is fragile, but it is there. Maybe he is hurt. Maybe he is huddled in a cave, waiting for the sound of a helicopter. They throw everything at the mountain. Arkansas State Police deploy their emergency response team. Drones buzz over the canopy, looking for a flash of color in the gray woods. K-9 units tracking dogs and cadaver dogs are brought to the car. But here is the frustration. Here is where the reality of the timeline hits you in the gut. The dogs are trying to track a scent that is 2 weeks old. Imagine trying to smell a whisper from 14 days ago. The weather has rained, frozen, and thawed since Nicholas parked that car. The scent trail is fractured, and the terrain fights back. Sheriff Tom Hughes describes it as very rugged. That is police speak for hell on earth. These aren't walking paths. These are steep inclines, slick with ice and dead leaves. Searchers are slipping, sliding, covering 1,700 acres of ground that wants to break your ankle with every step. 40 people, 40 pairs of eyes scanning every bush, every ravine. Day 1 passes. Nothing. Day 2, nothing. Day 3. The optimism begins to bleed out. The red herring in this case isn't a suspect. It isn't a mysterious stranger. The red herring is the car itself. The car sitting there gave everyone hope that he was close, that he was just right there. But as the search radius expands 1 mile, 1.5 miles, the team begins to realize the truth. This wasn't a casual walk. Nicholas didn't trip and fall near the trailhead. He hiked with purpose. He hiked with determination. He went deep. And he wasn't trying to find a view. He was trying to find a place where the world couldn't follow him. By January 5th, the question shifts. We aren't asking, where is Nicholas Collins anymore? We are asking, why did he walk this far? And what is waiting for us at the end of that 1.7-mile trail? It is Tuesday, January 6th, day 6 of the active search. The team is exhausted. Their legs are burning. They have been fighting the Ozarks for nearly a week. They have pushed past the 1-mile mark. They are now deep inside Newton County. The terrain here isn't just steep, it is vertical. You don't walk here, you climb. And then, a radio crackles. An Arkansas State Trooper, part of the emergency response team, stops. He sees something that doesn't belong in the brown and gray palette of the winter forest. He has found him. Nicholas Collins. He is 1.7 miles from the car. That number 1.7 miles sounds small on a highway, but in this terrain, that is an odyssey. That is hours of grueling hiking. Nicholas didn't just wander off. He hiked until he couldn't be seen. He hiked until the silence was absolute. The discovery brings a sudden, crushing finality. The hope of a lost hiker evaporates instantly. But the mission isn't over. Now, the carryout begins. Sheriff Glenn Wheeler looks at the map. He realizes the logistical nightmare they are facing. It takes 40 people, 12 different agencies. They have to rig rope systems. They have to pass the litter, hand over hand up the slopes. It takes hours of sweat and muscle to bring Nicholas back to the road. It is a somber procession. 40 strangers working in unison to bring a boy from Iowa back home. They carry the weight of his body, but they also carry the heavy question that hangs in the cold air. Why here? Why this far? The scene is secured. The forensic team moves in. And very quickly, the story of what happened on that mountain clarifies into a single tragic narrative. There is no second set of footprints. There is no sign of a struggle. There is no predator lurking in the bushes. The cause of death is a gunshot wound, self-inflicted. The authorities, Sheriff Wheeler, Sheriff Hughes, they confirm it immediately. No foul play. Authorities state that there is no evidence of a crime committed against Nicholas. All available evidence is consistent with a self-inflicted act. Now, we have to look at the evidence through a different lens, the lens of intent. Remember the license plates? Investigators believe the missing plates were not intended to conceal a crime, but may have been meant to delay identification of the vehicle. He knew that if a ranger scanned that plate on day 1, they would knock on the window. They would ask if he was okay. They might have called his parents. Removing the plates would have had one clear effect. It bought time before the vehicle could be immediately identified. And the 1.7 miles? From a behavioral analysis standpoint, this detail stands out. Suicide is often impulsive, but this was a deliberate final journey. He walked past the easy spots. He walked past the places where he could be found. He hiked deep into the Newton County line because he wanted two things: isolation and a view. He wanted his final moment to be his own. It is a heartbreaking paradox. The level of planning the note, the phone, the drive, the plates, the hike, shows a mind that was sharp, focused, and determined. He used all of his intelligence, all of his capability, to orchestrate his own end. The glitch in reality wasn't supernatural. It was the devastating precision of human despair. When a 22-year-old vanishes into the woods, our minds naturally race to find an answer that makes sense. We want a villain. We want a mistake. In the case of Nicholas Collins, we looked at three possibilities. Point 1. The accident. This was the hope, the idea that Nicholas was just a hiker who slipped. He loved the outdoors. He knew the Appalachian Trail. It is logical to think he came to the Ozarks for the challenge, misjudged the terrain, and fell. But the evidence destroys this. Hikers don't remove their license plates. Hikers don't leave notes saying, "going away for a while." Point 2. The crime. The foul play theory. Was he lured there? Did he meet someone in that parking lot? The internet detectives love this angle. It's scary, but it's solvable. But look at the forensic reality. The gun was his. The wound was self-inflicted. There were no defensive wounds, no signs of robbery. The forest was empty. The only person Nicholas was fighting was himself. Point 3. The darkest truth. The intent. This is the hardest one to accept. We want to believe that survival is the strongest human instinct. We want to believe that if he hiked 1.7 miles, the fresh air, the exercise, the beauty of the Ozarks would change his mind. We want to believe the walk would save him. But in this case, the distance itself became part of the danger. He didn't go into the woods to get lost. He went into the woods knowing that help would not reach him quickly. This triangle collapses into a single point. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a murder. It was a tragedy of the mind. But before we close this file, there is one detail that haunts me. The phone. Remember, he turned it off on December 19th. For 18 days, it was silent. When they found his body, they likely found the phone. And here is the question that keeps investigators awake at night. Did he ever turn it back on? In those final moments, sitting on that ridge, looking out over the valley, did he power it up one last time? Did he type a text message he never sent? Did he look at photos of his family? Or did he leave it black? We don't know. The police report doesn't say. But that unanswered question may be the most haunting detail of all. It represents the total commitment to silence, to turn off the world and never let it back in. The helicopters have landed. The dogs have gone home. The white Mini Cooper has been towed from the Arbaugh Trailhead. Silence has returned to the Ozarks. But in Garwin, Iowa, the silence is different. It is the silence of an empty room. Nicholas Collins is gone. But his story leaves an echo that vibrates through 2 states. Think about the 40 people, deputies, volunteers, forest rangers who climbed that mountain. Strangers who risked their own safety, slipping on ice, tearing through thorns, just to bring a boy they never met back to his family. Sheriff Wheeler called it a mission with no egos. It is a reminder that even when someone chooses to walk away from the world will still try to bring them back. Now, I turn the file over to you. We have analyzed the timeline, the 500-mile drive, the removed plates, the 1.7-mile hike. This case is officially closed as a suicide. The police have done their job. But the psychological mystery remains open. Why do so many young men choose the wilderness for their final act? Is it a desire to return to nature? Or is it a belief that the forest is the only place big enough to hold their pain? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe the removed plates were a sign of fear or a sign of mercy, trying to spare his family the pain of finding him too soon? Discuss it respectfully, because we need to understand the signs before the next car is found abandoned at a trailhead. The disappearance of Nicholas Collins was not a crime story. It was a story about the distance between people. He drove 500 miles to get away. He hiked 1.7 miles to be alone. But in the end, he proved the opposite of what he intended. He proved that you cannot truly disappear. Because when you walk into the dark, 40 people will light torches and follow you. When you turn off your phone, 1,000 satellites will look for your car. And when you try to erase your identity, a community will scream your name. Nicholas Collins went to the mountain to find silence, but his legacy is that he was heard. He is part of the geology now. resting in the high places. And the mountain keeps its secrets.